Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Noga. I'm from Red Access. It's a pleasure to have you all today. We have a great webinar lined up. It's going to be a treat. The webinar, The End of Predictive Security, How CISOs Can Secure GenAI Without Burning Out. We have two very special speakers with us today. We have Mark Aklian and Dedi Shindler. Mark, it would be great if you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Just a brief introduction. Mark Aklian. I'm out of the New York region. I've been in financial services, technology, and cybersecurity for going on 27 years. It's been a long time. It's interesting. The topic is very relevant because of the proliferation of AI, and I lived it firsthand as an operator at a pretty high-profile financial services firm here in Manhattan. And it's a scary thing. And hopefully we have an opportunity here to kind of shed a little bit of light on how we can help to make it a little bit easier to manage.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having me.
Thank you for joining us. And Dedi, would be great if you could introduce yourself. We'll have the deck up in a
Yeah,
second.
thanks, Noga. So hi, everyone. Great to have you here with us. My name is Dedi Schindler. I'm the VP of Product at Red Access. I lead our product strategy and execution from defining the vision to bringing innovative capabilities to market. At Red Access, we're building the next generation of tools to help organizations protect their web traffic. Today's web security challenges are evolving rapidly, especially with advanced use cases like GenAI security, safe browsing, and data loss prevention across both managed and unmanaged devices. What makes us at Red Access different is how we do it. Traditional solutions in this space often come with significant operational overhead, complex deployments, endpoints, agents, and heavy infrastructure. And we take a different approach. We integrate natively into the organization existing network security stack, and we operate with zero footprint on endpoint devices. This allows security teams to gain strong protection and visibility without adding friction to users or IT. So personally, I bring over 20 years of experience in bringing cybersecurity innovations to market, working at the intersection of product technology and real-world customer needs. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to our discussion.
Yes, thank you both for joining us. We have a great agenda lined up. We're going to start hearing about GenAI security challenges and what that means for a CISO who has to keep up with everything that's going on. We'll talk about predictive fatigue versus architectural resilience and what that means for security teams. We have an interesting framework covering the pillars of a future-proof solution. We'll hear from Mark about GenAI security in action for finance teams, for security teams in the finance industry, and we'll wrap up with a Q&A, which we'll hear from the audience. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll send it to you afterwards. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll answer in the end. So with that, let's get started. Dedi, can you please share a bit about what you're seeing in the industry about what AI security risks enterprises and security teams are dealing with?
Yeah. So AI adoption is accelerating rapidly across enterprises, but security controls have not evolved at the same pace. So today, AI tools are embedded everywhere in browsers, desktop applications, developer tools, and business workflows, often without centralized visibility or governance. So at the high level, the current AI risks fall into few key categories. First, there is data exposure risk. So employees are frequently copy sensitive information into AI prompts, source code, credentials, customer data, financials, without really understanding where that data goes or how it is retained. And once data leaves the organization through an AI prompt, control is lost. Second, we're seeing a rise in shadow AI usage. teams adopt AI tools independently, and they're using personal accounts or unapproved services. Security teams often have no insight into which AI tools are in use, who is using them, or what data is being shared. The third risk and challenge is identity and access risks. They're growing. AI tools often unauthenticate through browsers or embedded sessions, making it difficult to enforce corporate identity controls or distinguish between human and non-human usage. And from an industry perspective, those risks, they're amplified. In regulated sectors like finance, healthcare, and technology, AI usage introduced compliance exposure, including PII leakage, IP loss, and violations of data residency or retention requirements. So for software and IP-driven companies, AI tools can unintentionally leak proprietary code or designs. So AI is evolving beyond tools into agentic systems, automated agents that act on behalf of users. And this creates a new class of non-human identities and actions that traditionally security models were never designed to control. So the challenge for enterprise is that enable AI innovation while maintaining visibility, control, and accountability without slowing or impact the business.
So Mark, you've been in the field for quite a while and you work with a lot of CISOs. How does that resonate with you? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So most recently, I spent 4 years at a hedge fund, and this is going back probably 3 years ago when we decided to that we needed to build our own internal models, just because we wanted to keep everything inside our four walls. And financial services firms, like, they'll throw money at it just to make sure that it's secure, just to make sure that there's no intellectual property leakage, especially for financial firms with very, very proprietary confidential algorithms. And about 6 months ago, I left the firm and I started my own practice. And I'm working with a company. It's a trusted advisor called Accelerate Partners, where being put in front of many different companies, many different industries, most of them very highly regulated, healthcare, financial, you name it. And the biggest thing that's resonating is that, I mean, those three specific risks, those challenges that you mentioned, Dedi, that they're ringing true for every organization literally right now today.
Mhm.
I mean, there was a time where, we threw tons of resources, like the most prominent, AI researchers that had been building these models for a decade prior, right? So they've been, they're PhDs in all kinds of different fields, and after building the the um, the infrastructure and offering it to everybody and providing people with training. We looked back on it a couple of years later, and when we finally had the security tools in place to be able to see what people were doing, because they weren't in place. That we didn't. That right now there are so many different point solutions that are being delivered, that are like trying to cover like one sliver of the life cycle, right, from end to end. And like we noticed that there were, over 200 LLMs being accessed over 10,000 times per week by like probably less than half the organization that actually had access to, and was using these different tools to actually better themselves, to try to discover different things. So shadow AI is a real thing. The risk of IP loss and confidential information, the risk of privacy, controls being broken, with customers, with clients, with employees. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and that should be scarier than anything. Like that's what kept us up at night, and it keeps a lot of different the leadership teams, not just in cybersecurity, but within the organizations, it keeps them up at night. And it's not an easy challenge to solve, right? You have to attack it from different angles. From a security standpoint, I've been in cybersecurity for over a decade, And the defense in depth approach, you start there, but there's so many different nuances. You really have to pinpoint exactly where you need to target based upon the risk profile of your organization and what the goals are for the usage of these AI tools.
Mhm.
So what can CISOs do? Dedi, how can they stay up to date with everything that's going on?
Um, so I think one of the biggest challenges is enterprises face today is not a specific AI threat. It's the speed at which AI is evolving. So new AI tools, models, browsers, extensions, and embedded assistants are appearing almost weekly. What was a cutting edge 6 months ago is already outdated, and security teams simply can't evaluate, approve, and govern every new capability at that pace. I think that the reality is that the future of AI is unknown. We don't know yet which AI tools will become standards, how agentic workflows will evolve, how AI-driven automation will change user behavior, and designing security around fixed architecture, specific tools, or static policies no longer works when environment itself is constantly changing. So that puts CISOs in an incredibly difficult position. So the life of a CISO in the AI era is one of constant trade-offs between enabling innovation and managing risk, between speed and control, between visibility and user friction. So blocking AI outright isn't realistic, but allowing it without guardrails also creates unacceptable exposure. So CISOs, they're being asked to secure technologies that didn't exist when their security stack was designed, often without adding more agents, more complexity, or more operational burden. So the pressure isn't just technical, it's organizational and it's personal. And what's needed is a security approach that can adapt as fast as AI does, one that doesn't depend on knowing what the next tool will be, but instead it protects the session, the data, and the user, no matter how AI evolves.
You're absolutely right, Teddy. It's cultural first because
Mhm.
the feeling that not just the engineers, the leadership of every line of business, the technology leadership, even the leadership and the board, of the organization that's trying to, knowing that they're behind. Everybody's behind. I feel behind. I mean, I'm conversing with CISOs all over the place. We're collaborating on what tools are, going to be the most effective. And, procurement cycles are like ridiculous. We all know the larger the organization, the more enterprise, heavy the organization is, it's going to take a long time to vet the right tool, to actually bring it in, to do proof of concepts, to implement it, and then to really see and actually understand the metrics behind what are we preventing. Like it's hard enough from my view as a CISO. It's hard enough to show like what is the return on investment for what we're spending on all of these tools, and like we're preventing something. So it's very difficult, first and foremost to show like here's what we've prevented and why we sleep better at night. When it comes to AI, like innovation, if you're not like on par with it, you're behind already. So there's always this sense of it's your FOMO, really. You're missing out on the new technologies that are out, the faster way that you can develop code and deliver code. From a personnel perspective, I mean, it all started with this is going to replace people. We could reduce our workforce and then put people in a much higher, like at a much higher level, right? You can level up, You could start managing, you could start directing traffic rather than, sitting there and doing your coding or, really developing governance and standards and policies. And but the issue is that those fundamentals, the foundations, are not in place for these organizations to actually adopt it, as quickly as you possibly can. And what happens is, like, the fear of missing out on these new innovations drives people to really, to do bad things and to not listen to, standards and not, use common sense when they're logging in. And I see it all everywhere. They're logging in with their personal accounts into whatever flavor of LLM that you like, and then they're copying and pasting information. I mean, those basic controls where you're not supposed to be taking, if you're using, let's say, a BYOD, you can't copy and paste into whatever when you're logged into the VPN for your organization. Well, if you're not blocking these tools, if you're not controlling access, if you're not monitoring what the employees are doing and giving them a path where they could still do what they need to do, but in a controlled fashion, and then have like acceptable use policies and standards and procedures and training. Like it all starts with the cultural aspect of it. And then, all of the foundations of cybersecurity that need to be in place in these organizations aren't there. They aren't there. That's where it begins. And that's where, it's just they're constantly chasing it. And you're right, every week something new comes out. And everybody gets excited about it. There's so much buzz, and they're like, "We got to start this, and we have to use this." And it's just it's bringing everybody, all of these different organizations, into a risk profile that I don't think they really understand. Hope that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So Danny, Mark is talking a lot about like the predictive fatigue. So what is this architectural resilience? How does that fit in there?
Well, I mean, it really depends. There's so many factors that go into designing the right architecture, and it starts with, like, the foundations of governance and ensuring that, based upon, like, what are the specific, why do you want to use these AI tools? Like, what is the goal? Understanding what those specific use cases are and what the anticipation is, like, what are you trying to achieve? It starts there, and then governance, and then monitoring. I mean, all the different fundamentals, the fundamentals of a good cybersecurity program, regardless of what the technology is that you're trying to secure. Ensuring that um, you have agents. I mean, agents are they're very intricate. You could do so many different things with them. I mean, I've been using them to do I've been building them to do specific security things, right? I don't want to pay 10 grand a month for a specific tool that is going to give me, like, threat intelligence. So I built a threat intelligence feed agent. Well, how do I know it's correct? How do I know it's not giving me a bad information, that it's not hallucinating? Well, you create an agent to monitor the agent. And that's where, like, I mean, there are hundreds of different cybersecurity tools out there that are using AI, and that they're, fundamental in, agentic deployment, that are actually helping. But you have to watch the watcher. Like, it always has to do with that overarching, monitoring that you need to do at a higher level, which kind of feeds into, where, as a CISO, cybersecurity leadership, you can't tell them no right off the bat. You can't just block them without giving them a path forward, right? We and every cybersecurity leader knows this. We used to be called Dr. No, right? We can't do that anymore because we'll get pushed out. That's just a fact of where business is today. So
Yeah, AI agents, AI browsers, everything definitely can block AI for sure. I remember when Facebook used to be blocked, the place that I worked at like a decade ago. That's not, that doesn't fly anymore today.
Hmm.
Um, so Dedi, you you came up with a framework that can answer some of these issues.
Mhm.
Relate some of the ideas that Mark came up with. Could you take us through it, please?
Yeah, and I think that, Mark comments around, the uh, predictability or the predictive fatigue versus architecture resilience is a good segue to, okay, so what then should be the kind of common principle for a future proof solution? And then when we talk about a future proof GenAI security architecture, we're not just talking about adding AI controls to existing tools. We're talking about rethinking how security is designed for a world that is changing faster than any previous technology wave. So a truly future-proof solution must stand on four foundational pillars: adaptability, uh, coverage, governance, and usability. And I'll explain more what does each of those pillars refers to. So start with adaptability. The speed of AI innovation is unprecedented. New AI browsers, embedded assistants, extensions, AI powered SaaS capabilities that appear constantly. So security can no longer depend on static configuration or manual upgrades. First, security must automatically adapt to new browsers, new AI tools, and new workflows without requiring redeployment. So organization cannot afford to reconfigure infrastructure every time a new AI tool become popular. Second, security platforms, they must allow organizations to adopt capabilities incrementally. AI DLP today, session controls tomorrow, governance expansion later on, without forcing a full platform commitment upfront. So flexibility reduces risk and it accelerates adoption. And the third part is most enterprises already have investment in identity, network security, SIEM systems, and endpoint tools. So a modern solution must complement and extend the stack, so it should not require tearing apart years of architectural investment. The second part is coverage. So AI risks, they're no longer confined to one environment. First, security cannot depend on agents, extensions, or specific device types. In a world of contractors, BYOD, hybrid work, and AI native applications, protection must follow the session, not the device. Second, the solution must work out of the box across browsers, desktop applications, embedded AI assistant, extensions, and future interfaces. It cannot rely on tailored software for each environment. If I need to deploy unique software per a browser type, desktop application, AI assistant, that's not gonna scale. The third part we mentioned, governance. So as environments they decentralize, governance must be kept centralized. First, admins need a single control plane. Even though users operate across dozens of applications, browsers, and unmanaged devices, they would still need one place where they can control their environment. Second, policies should apply consistently across environments without administrators needing separate rules for browsers, for desktop application, for SaaS applications. If I'm having ChatGPT as a web and over a web browser, and on the other hand, another user may use the ChatGPT desktop application where, as an administrator, I need one consolidated policy across those users without the need to apply a solution or a policy per type of application. The third part is you cannot govern what you cannot see. So security must provide full visibility into users, sessions, AI prompts, data movement, and application usage, without blind spots between network and endpoint. Today, I feel that CISOs and administrators they're pretty blind as far as their ability to see what is being used by their users. So this is important part. And the last one, usability, and perhaps most critically, first, if security slows the user down, they will bypass it. I'm pretty sure Mark is familiar with that. Friction leads directly to shadow IT. CISOs need the help of tools that will give them the visibility. Second, security should not require ongoing agent maintenance, extension management, or constant troubleshooting. It should operate seamlessly, easy for admins, and invisible to users. It should be transparent. Together, those four pillars, they define the way we see it at Red Access, what GenAI security must become. Should be adaptive to change. It should be broad in coverage. It should be strong in governance and should be effortless as far as usability. So only solutions that build on those principles would be adequate to the new AI era.
And constantly going to be chasing it. I mean, every one of these pillars, when you say future proof, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. Okay. It's nothing's ever going to be future proof,
Yeah.
but the best thing that you could do is to ensure that you've got everything covered and you're constantly evolving with the evolution of all of these innovations. So one example, which is really it rings true. It just happened a couple weeks ago. I wrote a blog post about it. I shared it on my LinkedIn profile where OpenAI, they changed their terms of service and they announced what their terms of service, how they changed. And that fundamentally changes like the risk profile of the organizations that are not on an enterprise license with OpenAI to use ChatGPT for their organization. And you really need to make sure that you're constantly checking to see what the configuration settings and how they're changing every time that they make an update. Like I just know to go, when I'm using it personally, when I'm using it, with the clients that I have through Accelerate Partners. I'm a fractional CISO for a number of different organizations across industries, and I'm always double checking and triple checking. Did they update their policy? We have alerts that are actually letting us know. Having a unified viewpoint of what the controls look like, that's key. Like you mentioned it, Dedi. The way Red Access gives you that sort of that one view where you could look at the configuration and you can make sure the rules are being, the different the policies, the specific configuration settings are being applied everywhere. That's fine. But when they're using these tools, something's going to change. And unless you have an overarching platform that you can make sure that, whether, regardless of what the actual vendors for these platforms are changing, we're still keeping, ensuring that our data is secure, ensuring that if someone does something inadvertently stupid and, copies and pastes some proprietary information, material, non-public information, privacy data, right? That it will be prevented from, being sent, right? And those fundamentals are key, and they align directly with the pillars that you mentioned. Yeah, it's a very good roadmap.
So, Mark, thank you for those examples. I was wondering specifically about the finance industry, which we know is heavily regulated, and the customers and end users have very high expectations. of the way that they work, and they're also supposed to be very innovative and forward-thinking. Do you have specific security examples from there where you think this framework could be applied?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, regardless of the size of the organization, and I've worked at large enterprise financial services firms, the biggest banks on the planet, um, and then also smaller, regional financial institutions, hedge funds, asset management firms, private equity, venture capital. They all have a common challenge. The challenges are very common. One issue could be a huge reputational damage on the organization, a loss of trust. So we know this. This has been going on forever. But um, what I see different organizations wanting and needing, what they want to get out of AI within their organizations is having a concept of, and I know it's kind of innovative, of a second brain where they could feed all of the documentation, they could feed all of the information from a specific group, from a specific line of business, from an HR perspective, from a learning and leadership development perspective. I see organizations looking to really hone in on what they can improve upon and how they can really utilize AI to be better, to do better, to give back to their clients, their customers, to ensure that their employees are moving through the organizations, in a positive way, and up leveling and upskilling and promoting. Like all of these things are they're predictive when it comes to utilizing AI. It's going to give you, once it's all set up correctly, of course, it's going to give you a very like an objective perspective as to, okay, I have a team of people, and this is a real world example that I worked through just recently. We have a team of people. We'd like to understand what the path for promotion for these individuals are. They started as interns. We move them through the organization to areas that they're really, really excelling in. But we need to understand, what training do they need? Like, how should we tailor their specific learning path in order to give them that opportunity, those opportunities to excel and to grow within the organization? Well, what do you need to feed into the LLM? What do you need to feed into the model? There has to be some proprietary information for the organization, what tools you're using, so that's completely, non-public, the architecture and how the organization is laid out, especially from a security perspective, the personal information about the employees, how long they've been there, what their tenure is, like what their, how their performance reviews, right? You can obfuscate and get rid of personally identifiable information all you want, but at some point the juice is not worth the squeeze. Like you can filter as much information as you can, and if you can trust that architecture, the infrastructure that you built is secure, then you can feed it all of this information. Access controls are really important. You don't want to feed it performance reviews and compensation information of a specific individual, a specific employee, without ensuring that that the access controls of those documents, those files, those Excel spreadsheets, those reports are being maintained. So access control is one of the biggest things that catch people. They catch these even the engineers that are building them, catch them by surprise. And a practical application of the usage of the tools that will ensure that you're maintaining that access control is key. Like that's just one example of something that had come up when they did a pilot with a pretty popular platform, and we found that they were doing things that they said they weren't supposed to be doing. There were agents running and impersonating other individuals trying to gather data to implement it into the LLM. I mean, Dedi, you're seeing that left and right. I'm giving you examples of things that I'm discovering on a daily, weekly basis. Talking to
Yeah.
these customers, these clients that need help, like they're asking for help, and
Yeah.
we're trying to give them that, that comprehensive and like sort of a complete picture as to where to start. You can't do it all at once, but having the ability to be able to turn on controls in a predictable fashion and get the results that you're looking for is really an asset. Wanted to throw it back to you to see if you had any thoughts about that, Dedi.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that CISOs they can no longer afford solutions that are tightly coupled to tools, browsers, or technologies that may be obsolete in a year time frame. So strategies, security strategies, they need to be adaptable by design. So they need to protect users' data and sessions, regardless of which AI tools, the browsers that you use, or workflows that are being evolved. So uh, I believe that this the pace of how those AI tools evolve requires CISOs to be more, or at least to have tools that are more dynamic and adjustable.
Completely agree. Thank you. We have a few questions from the audience to wrap up, I think, some of the things that you discussed. Mark, I think this one is for you. So you've definitely established that chasing every new AI threat is non-sustainable. But how can a CISO convince a board that building architectural resilience is actually, better long term than trying to chase, the just latest AI risk?
Yeah, you're chasing it. I mean, it all goes back to sort of the basics of metrics. So we need to gather metrics as to like if the board understands and is bought into what AI is going to produce for them, for the organization, how it's going to like increase their productivity or reduce their headcount to save money or to increase the revenue that they're going to be generating. Like that's usually sort of pie in the sky. That's number one. So aligning the strategy with what their expectations are is key. And then ensuring that they like we what was very effective was presenting it to them as a here are the risks, here's a specific outcome. So let's say it's a financial organization. Let's just say use the example that they want to start using these tools to better target individuals in different regions, in different locations. So they're going to use some geographical data. They're going to use resources about how much money these people are making, what the household income, and they want to put this together and really target specific individuals. Okay, let's just say that's the key. Now, when they're targeting these individuals, there's a lot of personally identifiable information because they know what customers they have in those regions, and ensuring that they understand that the implications of having either an intellectual property leakage to like training some of these LLMs or leaking out to the real world, or like the privacy information being inadvertently leaked if they're not protecting themselves appropriately, that's going to lead to specific outcomes. And there are calculations that you could do to actually show what the reputational, the regulatory damage for the organization will be if something like this happens without doing these specific things. So it's almost like an ROI that you can put together as to, okay, like this, and especially organizations that really are definitive about their revenue, and they really do a good job at aligning their business plan with the amount of revenue that they expect to generate. They know how much it's going to cost them. Like you should be able to calculate it. It's pretty easy to calculate what that damage could potentially be. So putting it to them in those terms and letting them understand that this has happened, this is happening today, and the implications are catastrophic for these companies. That I think that's a good way to approach it and be simple about it, right? It's not making complicated 10-page decks, and it's a slide or two that shows here's what's happening today in companies like us in our industry, and show them real world examples, and then here's what the potential risk is, and what our financial risk is if something were to happen. And here, give them a couple of different scenarios. Hope that
Thank
helps.
Yeah, I think that's very insightful for our audience. So Dedi, from the technological side of things or the product side of things, how can security adapt to all the new tools, so supposedly being future-proof, but without having to constantly redeploy?
Yeah, I think that what's required now is a new security mindset. So instead of trying to predict and block every new AI tool, CISOs need architectures that assumes constant change. The focus it must shift from controlling technologies to controlling behavior, access, data flows in real time. So it's not about adding more tools or more policies, but actually changing the approach. And it's about simplifying security while making it more resilient, enabling innovation, but that doesn't put CISOs constantly in kind of adaptive mode. So new AI capabilities, they introduce new questions, new risks, new expectations, often without removing any of the old ones. So the result is usually fatigue that is unsustainable. So this new security mindset and the ability to come up with product that can adapt constantly to changes is essential in this world.
So one deployment and the product adapts. That's
Exactly. And that does not need to be adjusted per, type of tools or operating systems or such.
yeah.
The other key I'll just add to that. Oh, go ahead. Is there another question?
There's another question, but please go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so looking at regulated industries like finance, with Mike, which you're well versed in, what level of human oversight is still required? It's a very relevant question, I think.
Man in the middle, absolutely. Yeah, that's one topic we didn't cover. I mean, for like the way that the approach really is to be very prescriptive, right? To, you know, have specific risk ratings for decisions that are being made by the AI platform, and ensuring that they are classified just like you do data classification. You need to classify actions, like action classification, I call it, and ensuring that actions that have a higher level of risk require a human in the middle to approve before it actually occurs. So, for example, one of the companies I'm working with, they're lending, and they want to make the lending decisions based upon all of these different factors, load up all the client's information, and then determine what their risk profile is from a financial perspective using all their calculations they typically do, but then adding on to it other factors that really have never been utilized in the decision making process of how much you are going to lend this person for their business, or for like what they want to expand. And it's so funny. That decision, they wanted to have AI solely make that decision for them. And I was like, wait a minute. Red flag. Like, what if like it puts you in a financial predicament? What if the risk is too high from whatever perspective? Who would who today, as part of your team, is going to make that determination? And they pointed to a group of individuals that have been there for a long time that know right off the bat. They see red flags coming around the corner. They're very, very experienced with it. So putting in place that human, in the loop, they call it. That's the technical term that's been thrown around. Putting that specific team in the loop for those decisions before they're actually executed was the right thing to do. And proving to them that it would not waste a lot of time if we put the processes and procedures together appropriately. And that was the biggest thing. Like once we proved to them, we tested it that, it wasn't going to really slow down their process. That was specifically key. So just to recap, ensuring that your actions are risk rated and they are classified, and whatever your risk profile is and your company's profile is, to ensure that, okay, some of these decisions we can make without a human in the loop. Others are too risky to make without it. So that's what we need to do, in order to like be more predictable about what you could actually let go, which I've seen a lot of companies are, kind of adopting that a little bit more now with some other decisions that are being made, that are less risky in the organization.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, we have time for one last question. So this webinar has been very kind of a bird's eye view of kind of the future, and how CISOs can strategize and plan. What's the practical next step? Like what happens tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I mean, the most effective thing that we've been involved in, and myself with Accelerate partners, with their customers, is doing an assessment, really coming in and really reviewing what the current practices are, how they're utilizing these tools, and uncovering what the risks are today. So it's going to be a difficult thing to look at because, again, you don't know what you don't know, and I know that everybody's sort of half afraid of what they're going to actually find. But identifying what those risks are, stack ranking them, and approaching each one of them, with that prioritized manner, it'll be very quick it'll be a very quick assessment to come in and say, okay, here are the things you need to do foundationally, and be able to find the tools and put together the policies, and start to really parallelize the training that we're going to give the employees, and to really like put together a strategy. That's where it's best to really have someone that's done it before, to have an organization with like a really with like really deep relationships with all of these different vendors, including Red Access, and looking to see like what would be the biggest bang for the buck initially, to start to gain some, like, stop the bleeding, and then move down into the stack, and look at the different areas that we're going to need to expand upon. I think that's the best next step.
And I will add to what Mark said to kind of, I think that hopefully we all realize that this is a journey. So next steps is is really to think forward, but make sure that you have what it needs to keep adjusting and updating. I would start with great visibility tools. So regardless of the guardrails and the kind of the enforcement tool that you use, there will always be limitations to what you're using. But a good visibility should give you, as an organization, an ability to know what is being used in my network. I think that in many cases, what I've seen is organizations that they don't know what they don't know. And in many cases, you come to organizations and say, well, let's define a policy to block any malicious activities. And frankly, they don't have a clue. But if you give them kind of a long list of, well, here are the AI tools that are being used in your environment. This is their risk scoring. Those are the users that are mostly kind of consuming those AI tools. Here is an AI tool that is unknown, or that has not been categorized. I think that by itself can give a lot of knowledge that would help administrators to define those policies and the ability to know what they want to block or enforce. So first, I think important step is have a good visibility that is rich enough that can give you all the information you need to make decisions. And then you can always kind of keep adjusting your policies and enforcement tools.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you both for the really interesting conversation and the fascinating insights. This wasn't a regular webinar. It was an interesting conversation, thinking about the future, really dealing with the challenges that I think obviously security teams are dealing with now, but also everyone is dealing with, like thinking about what the future holds for AI, what that means for where we are professionally and where we will be in a few years. So yeah, so we'll take a look back at this webinar in a few years and see how well we predicted what's going to happen. Thank you for everyone who attended, to our amazing audience. Yeah, and you can follow us on LinkedIn or our website, redaccess.io, and get more interesting insights and content. Until next time, thank you all.
Thank you.